Hi, third grade families. My name is Misty Mercer, and I am the K 12 District Literacy Specialist for Greene County Schools. I come to you today with an informational video and hopefully an ability to answer some of your questions regarding the third grade promotion and retention law. So in 2021, the Tennessee legislation updated this retention law that had actually been in place since 2011. They updated this law to specifically look at third grade students and their performance on the ELA TCAP. And what they did in this law is they wrote it in there in order to better help students and serve students that if they did not score in the below or approaching category on their third grade ELA TCAP at the end of the year, that they would either have to A, complete tutoring, B, summer school, or in some cases, they would need to do both. So the full laid out law, the Tennessee Annotated Code, is located here in this link. If you want to access that, you can do that from right there. When they came out with this law, the goal of it was not actually to retain students, although it does seem that the media has indicated that that was the case. That was not the actual goal. The goal is to provide every student with necessary interventions, tutoring, and support possible to help them better retain reading proficiency and to try to catch those students early on as instead of waiting until they're much older when it's much more difficult. Now, as far as what has already happened for your child this year, in third grade. So in the fall, they took a universal reading screener, which is iReady. You should have received a letter and your student's information if your student scored at the 50th percentile or below. This is different from last year. The law was updated in the spring of last year, and they did change that to the 50th percentile and below. So you should have received a letter that let you know that we need to go ahead and be helping these kids a little bit extra. Most of those kids are already in tutoring, RTI, after school, before school, something of that nature to get additional supports. Now, in the winter, which is now, so before Christmas or even as we are returning from Christmas break, your student will take a mid year universal screener. By the end of this month, January 31st, you will receive another home literacy report. This will also indicate your student did score at the 50th percentile or below, and you will also get a letter indicating whether your child may be at risk for retention this year. If you get that letter, you may want to reach out to the parent or to the teacher and schedule a parent teacher conference or to discuss the results of that literacy report. You may contact me here at Central Office or via email, and I have that contact information at the end of this PowerPoint. And you may also want to go ahead and start thinking about signing your child up for summer school as soon as that information comes home. Now, in this spring, some different things will happen for your child. Your child will take an end of the year universal screener. Again, the law changed in the spring of last year, so we were able to do iReady at the end of the year last year. They have changed that to us taking Ames Web in the spring. So your child will take that towards the end of April, beginning of May, and then they will also take the TCAP test. You will receive a final home literacy report by the end of school, which will also indicate whether your child may be at risk for retention. You may want to go ahead and talk to the teachers, talk to the principal, and see what you might need to do. Once we get the information back from your Tennessee TCAP, if your child is at risk for retention, you will be required to come in and meet with your principal, reading specialist, or teacher and sign a contract for what you agree to do with your child. So it may be that you agree to do tutoring. It may be that you agree to do summer school. It may be that you agree to do both, depending on what category your student falls in. There will be an opportunity for parent appeals, and I'll talk about that more in this PowerPoint further on. So I know that you're probably spinning with a lot of information in your head, probably a lot of questions. I have linked the most updated third grade promotion FAQs, so frequently asked questions. If you click on this link, it will answer very specific questions regarding what qualifies for an appeal, which students are automatically exempt, if how you may be able to help your child at home. There's all sorts of information in there. If you want to access that document, it is located right here in this link. Now, if your child is not proficient on the third grade TCAP assessment, how can you be sure that they go on to fourth grade? You've heard me mention a couple different things, and we're going to talk about those in depth. Your child's school will notify you, and you will be able to sign those contracts and sign up for these things. So this is what it looks like. There are two categories that we are watching out for, and the guidelines for each are different. So if your child scores below, in the below category, which is equivalent to a 1, then your child, you will be exempt from retention, meaning they can go on to fourth grade if they already have a disability that impacts reading, meaning they have an IEP that specifically targets a area of weakness in reading. If your child is an English language learner and they have received less than 2 years of English instruction, if your child has already been retained in kindergarten, first, second, or third grade, if your child was on grade level on the retake test that they'll be able to take at the end of the year, if your child has a suspected disability that might impact literacy development, and if you enroll your child in summer school with 90% attendance and allow them to receive tutoring during school in fourth grade. Now, if you're in the below category, they must complete both of those in order to move on to fourth grade. They have to do summer school and tutoring. Now, if your child is in the approaching category, they will have all of those exact same things that we went over, except they will have the option of choosing summer school or tutoring. The other caveat to the approaching category is they are going to be required to make adequate growth. The state defined that last year as about 5 percentage points from the pre-test to post-test in summer school. Now, how does this new law impact the school decision on promotion and retention? Now, what we want to make sure that we come back and talk about here is typically it is your local education system who has the decision of, yes, your child is ready to move on, or no, they are not, in conjunction with the parents. However, third grade students do not fall under that same category. If they do not complete these requirements and they do not score, and they do score in the below and approaching categories, they are required by law to be retained. That has nothing to do with your school or Greene County school system. It is an actual law and we have to follow it. So we're just going to do our best to help support you work through it, and help you and your child navigate this and hopefully serve your child to the best of our abilities. Now, earlier in the video, I did mention that there is a parent appeal available for a third grade student who has been determined to not be proficient. Now, that may look a little bit different this year because they are updating those guidelines, in which they have not released to us yet. So, students who have achieved the performance level of approaching, they are the only ones that can apply for this appeal. Last year, it was only the parent or guardian who could do this appeal. This year, they have added administrators and teachers could also help do that. The Tennessee Department of Education is the only one who can approve or deny that request. It goes through their system and they evaluate the circumstances and let you know. The appeals link will be released at a later date, but currently I can tell you it is planned to be open between May 30th and June 30th. It is a very short window. You generally, after the first week, we generally start hearing from them every Friday, and they let us know who has been approved for an appeal. Now, the reasons that an appeal might be approved, like I said, they're a little bit different. One will remain the same, and that's a catastrophic situation. So if you have a death in the family, your child has the flu or a stomach bug or something like that, and it is within a short time frame. So we can't come in and submit an appeal for a grandparent that passed away a year ago. It has to happen within that week unless they change those guidelines. The second reason is likely going to be adequate growth, but again, they are defining that and they have not released that information to us just yet, but we will let you know when they do. So if your child happens to be absent and doesn't take the ELA portion of the TCAP test, well, in accordance with the Tennessee Code, if a third grade student does not take the TCAP test or generate an actual score on that portion of the assessment, they are considered not proficient because they are enrolled in a Tennessee school system and they did not produce an actual result. So they are to be treated the same way as someone who scored in non-proficient. So we would have to look at other options to help your student there. If your child does attend the Learning Loss Bridge Camp, aka summer school, as a condition and does not attend it with a 90% attendance rate, will they be retained? And the short answer to that is yes, they will be retained. If they do not attend for the 90%, we can do a couple makeup sessions, but we do not have a lot of time in the summer to do so. However, if they do not meet that requirement and make adequate growth, if they're in the that category, then they will be retained in third grade. Now, what is the Tennessee Department of Education and local school districts' role in implementing this new law? As I told you, the department's specific role is limited to approving or denying parent appeals and then providing a report to the General Assembly, which is your legislation. Greene County Schools, we are tasked to make sure we are providing interventions, quality tier 1 instruction, and help improve your students' reading proficiency as best as we humanly possibly can. As I had mentioned earlier, there will be a TCAP retake towards the end of the year. So your child will have an opportunity if they score on the big test when they have all of the consecutive tests within those week or two. If they do not score proficient on ELA, they will have a short window towards the end of the year in which we can do an additional retake. That looks a little bit different. It does not have a writing portion, so it's strictly multiple choice and it's a much shorter test. So your student attended Learning Loss Bridge Camp. How do I know if they meet adequate growth? So as I told you before, students will be required to take a pre and a post test at the summer school. The adequate growth measure will be determined based on growth between the pre-test and the post-test. Last year, it seemed to be that they sent us those guidelines about halfway through summer school, and it was about a 5% growth index. With that being said, I know that they are trying to recalculate those formulas so that it seems to be students will be able to actually show the appropriate amount of growth. So again, here is a final graphic for you. It shows all of the pathways of promotion to fourth grade. Basically, the entire PowerPoint in one graphic for you to be able to have all of that information. Finally, if you still have questions, I have inserted an additional tab here. This takes you straight to the Tennessee Department of Education. If you go under resources towards the bottom of the page, there are two tabs. One says general resources and one says district resources. If you will choose the general resources, those are some very helpful parent resources to help you understand this law and any implications that it might have on you and your family. You can also reach out to your child's school, and you may also contact me at any time. Again, my name is Misty Mercer. I'm the District Literacy Specialist. My email is misty j.mercer@gcstn.org. We look forward to working with you throughout the year. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.